Being the group of people with the most amount of free time, aside from the unemployed, children naturally flock to the internet. Unfortunately though, where there are children, there are nonces, and the internet is unfortunately no different, giving predators easy access to minors from the comfort of their mother's basement. If you're a normal person, your immediate response would probably be something along the lines of, "That's terrible, I wish I could help." But for most people, that's where that train of thought stops. However, a small minority have taken it upon themselves to play vigilante, taking the law into their own hands and attempting to stop this themselves. Of course, a noble idea, but these attempts tend to be either an incompetent but well-meaning effort, or nothing more than a blatant cash grab. In hindsight, it's pretty easy to see where these attempts at pedo hunting went wrong. So, without further ado, why don't you take a seat and allow me to walk you through two such cases on today's episode of To Not Catch an Online Predator.
I was thinking about an old quote today that seems particularly relevant given everything that's going on social media these days. When the debate is lost, the loser resorts to slander. Think about that for a minute.
It goes without saying, but this is the internet, so I need to... what's nuance mean anyway? Even though I'm criticising predator hunters in this video, it's not to downplay the harm predators have actually done to deserve being hunted. I'm just trying to highlight that two wrongs do not make a right. Swan has an incredible series on Chris Hansen that I definitely suggest checking out after this. To cut a long story a bit shorter though, Chris Hansen of To Catch Predator fame was not only a hero, but a pop culture icon of the early 2000s, and in some aspects still is, with references and parodies still abundant in today's media. Chris was heralded as a hero, but when you think about it a bit closer, sensationalizing and dramatizing these cases feels a little bit off. Regardless of intent though, Chris kept predators off the street, a noble cause however you go about it. There was definitely an air of superiority around Chris. He was a hero to many, he could do no wrong, until seemingly out of the blue, from what I can tell, To Catch a Predator was cancelled as a consequence of two main factors. The first being a paedophile Chris Hansen caught taking his own life after being confronted by Hansen, the fear being this would put a dark tone to the otherwise cheerful show about catching paedophiles, and the second being the termination of Chris's NBC contract due to being caught cheating on his wife with a news reporter 22 years younger than him. Going forward, Chris would struggle to, but eventually shake these career-ruining scandals, and was ready to thrust himself back in the spotlight, back to catching predators, a venture which went so well last time. Motivated presumably by the kindness of his heart and not the marketability of his name, Chris Hansen created a new show called Hansen vs Predator right here on YouTube. Of course, not without a Kickstarter scam preceding it. Essentially, Chris promised Kickstarter rewards. They weren't delivered for 2 years, and when Chris decided to eventually try and fulfill this through merchandise, the check bounced and Chris Hansen was arrested. Shockingly, Hansen vs Predator was eventually launched, except not really. Despite promising exclusive content for his website, only one video was actually uploaded, that being an old video that wasn't aired initially, with his main content on his channel being simple live streams. Chris was not off to a brilliant start. Now, Hansen is somewhat technologically illiterate, side effect of being born in 1959, which is very, very evident in his early streams. Somewhere along the line, Chris began to work with an interesting man called Vincent the Coach, although not for all too long. Vincent helped Hansen with a now forbidden website, probably for the best actually, because frankly it did not look very good whatsoever. One of my favourite features of being the which predator shocks you the most poll. Wait, hang on a minute, if he's struggling for money, how did he afford to hire a web guy? Well, he didn't. Vincent was working for free. To be fair though, I don't think I'd be willing to pay for this either, so fair enough. Vincent was, to put it as lightly as possible, completely off the rails. Initially, it was bad enough. Vince was going around sending fake copyright strikes to not only critical videos, which were very much protected under fair use, but clips from NBC. Clips that, despite featuring Chris Hansen, he very much does not own the copyright to. This false flagging campaign resulted in the termination of, to my knowledge, 2 channels, Joey TCAP and Baked Salmon. 2 channels which uploaded content that was very much in the realm of fair use. Baked Salmon received 13 strikes in total, which, seeing as though you only need need 3 strikes to be terminated, it feels a little bit excessive.
Chris Hansen's failed assistant has recently issued 2 copyright takedowns on my content. Both videos of mine consisting of criticizing his childish behavior and his actions that go against YouTube's terms of service. Even now, he has yet again struck down Baked Salmon's channel, his new channel, because he won't stop. This recently happened because he knows he can abuse the copyright system on YouTube, and he will continue to do so against the people that have criticized him. Chris Hansen's ex-website designer stated under penalty of perjury that everything right here is true, that my videos infringed his copyright, and he has also stated this under penalty of perjury multiple times. Which I don't think I have to walk you through as to why that's not true. I respect you guys a little too much to think that I have to hold your hand for something like that, but I will say, I don't remember even using clips from Vince's channel. That is, unless he's claiming that he owns the copyright to have a seat with Chris Hansen, because then that's really funny. Either way, fair use.
This strike, however, didn't actually go through. Maybe YouTube realized that all these strikes coming from the same person were maybe not the most legit. Chris kept on. He kept going, fighting against the waves of irrelevancy and outright disgrace, until one day he came across his golden goose. Onision, or Gregory James Jackson, is one of YouTube's most infamous creators, as well as being a perfect example of my personal rule of not trusting anyone with 3 first names. Onision is very strange, and even barring the Predator allegations, is incredibly unlikable, essentially being Shane Dawson too, but somehow creepier and less funny. Highlights include his banana song, his vegetarian body, and his series wherein he rated pictures of his fans.
But no guys, this is gonna be boring, because I would date most all these people if this situation made sense, because dating isn't about just looks. I mean, yes, this chick freaks me out a little bit, but I wouldn't let that rule out all possibility if the circumstances were right. He'd be much older than me, but oh wells. No, not oh wells. I mean, you're very pretty, but oh wells is worth nothing in prison.
Oh yeah, there's also that 3D animation phase he had, and if I had to remember it, so the
Hey, Onion! What's up, brah? Brah!
Now to the
What is going on?
defendant, Mr. Anderson. What is your...
Nah. I'm gonna click off the video just because I'm pretty sure that is a dictator from World War II.
As is par for the course with in-net personalities like Onision, soon enough there were grooming allegations levied against him. Hansen, not wanting to let a predator get away, or the view count of his new ban-evading channel to drop too much, began to pursue the Onision case, interviewing people with a lot of knowledge regarding the case, including Canadian artist Shaylo, who was at one point very close to Onision when she was underage. If not a nonce, Shaylo's testimonies painted Onision as very strange.
Started to show me all of the pornography that he watches. And the first pornography that he ever showed me was an anime character getting then a lot of...
This is an anime cartoon character essentially being raped, and he had that on his computer?
He searched it, but he knew what to search. And then he showed me some other pornography that was cartoon based. And the girls were very flat chested, very small, very young looking. And I was not okay with this, but he just explained to me that it had nothing to do with me and it was just something that guys do, you know, and being 17, I'm like, okay.
Hansen was very much on Onision's case, interview after interview, stream after stream, discussing Greg's misconduct, until Hansen did something I'm not sure many people were expecting. Chris Hansen knocks on Onision's door.
911, what are you reporting?
They have a bunch of camera people, like they're YouTube stalkers.
Okay, and what do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
Onision was going to be confronted by TV personality Christopher Hansen, no less. Although naturally, being the type of person that he is, Greg refused to leave his house whatsoever, making instead the funniest 911 call ever, no contest. Greg's refusal to go outside meant that Hansen's coveted Onision interview would have to wait. But how on earth is Hansen going to make money with Onision essentially on the back burner? Pablo Escobar was an incredibly notorious criminal. His work with the Medellin cartel, causing him to go down in history, is arguably the most infamous cocaine trafficker. Well, when the Escobar family aren't killing over 3,000 people and hustling Charlie, they seem to be very interested in the electronics business. In January 2019, Roberto Escobar, Pablo's brother, decided to launch the Escobar Fold 2, which was actually a Galaxy Fold with gold foil covering it.
You take a bit of that gold off of the hinge on the back, and right underneath is that Samsung logo right where it's supposed to be.
Escobar was selling these for $399, very nearly 80% less than the retail price of $1,980. The way he was making a profit from this insane reduction was by actually shipping it to reviewers like Marcus Brownlee and just not shipping the rest. But I mean, a little scam weren't going to interrupt Hansen's grind set, which is why he took the Cameo money and promoted the phone, presumably with no prior research, with hopefully no prior research.
Hey guys, Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators, and to catch a predator, I just wanted to tell you all that I've seen this amazing new smartphone called the Escobar Fold 2. It appears to be the best phone out right now. I've been looking at the transcripts. So have a seat, check it out, and remember, I'll be watching.
But as soon as the backlash began, of course, Hansen made use of his favourite tool to get rid of it, but the damage to not only his reputation, but the bank accounts of the people who still trusted him was already done. I mean, I'm genuinely baffled as to why he just didn't look into it whatsoever. Even if it's not as blatant a scam as this one, being named after a practically household name drug kingpin, I feel like you'd still want to make sure what you're promoting is actually legit. The fact that this was such like a cartoonishly obvious scam, it just proves Hansen doesn't really care as long as he's making money. Eventually, Onision buckled and agreed to be interviewed by Hansen for free, after previously attempting to extort him out of reportedly 350 grand. Of course, after waiting so long for this interview, Hansen declined. What?
This probably won't come as a shock to most of you, but I will not be going on Greg James Onision's, the YouTube psychobrat from Washington State's members-only paid porn channel. I still want to have him answer questions in an interview on Have a Seat with Chris Hansen, something he is not likely to do because he doesn't want to answer the tough questions about how he groomed and exploited multiple young women and how his negligence contributed to the near death of his 2-year-old child, among many other things, and police investigations and FBI investigations now underway.
Onision then offered to be interviewed on Hansen's channel under one condition: he turned the monetization off. Chris once again declined, saying that there would be no conditions. Now, I agree Hansen was well within his right to decline when Onision was trying to extort him out 350,000 quid, but he was basically begging Hansen to interview him at this point. If he had any journalistic integrity, any integrity at all for that matter, he would have taken it up, money or not. At this point, it should be very clear where Hansen's priorities lie. The backlash from people who genuinely wanted to see Onision face justice eventually got to Chris, and in the end, he agreed to demonetize the interview. Hansen's lawyer, however, apparently said the interview was going to be pre-recorded for whatever reason, to which Onision responded saying he was going to live stream it himself on his end, instead only for Chris Hansen to decline yet again. I'm honestly not sure why he was so dead set on pre-recording it. I mean, Onision is by all means a total brainlet, and Chris frankly had quite a lot against him, so it makes no sense why he would need to not stream it, especially since every other interview he's done, to my knowledge, has been live streamed.
It's become clear to me now that there's no way to do an interview with him, at least at this point, without him trying to exploit a live version of that interview. Given the fact that he's made animated videos where he blows his brains out and real videos where he exposes himself and makes horrible statements targeting his victims, I don't think that's responsible.
If Hansen's worried about the YouTube psychobrat and Washington State getting his knob out on the stream or something easy, just cover his video. It was clear that for whatever reason, Hansen was just ducking the interview. May I remind you that Hansen went to Onision's house unannounced, which is apparently more reasonable than doing a live interview. Onision is not the good guy, but it really starts to call Hansen's motives into question when he's declining Greg's uncharacteristically reasonable demands. To this day, Chris Hansen has never interviewed Greg Jackson's psychobrat. When some random Twitter user called him out for this, he simply responded with a captionless image of his Emmy, which is honestly potentially one of my favourite things anyone has ever done. Apart from promising his audience that he would keep up to date with Onision at the end of all his streams going forward, never really doing so, Hansen stopped focusing on Onision. I would also give up if I was humiliated by Onision, in fairness. At this point, the internet, mainly the YouTube commentary community, led by John Swan's 2 videos, widely turned on Hansen. Despite his reputation, he proved himself to be incompetent, money-grubbing, and above all else, quite a bit of a loser, which for someone with an ego quite as big as Hansen's, was way too much to handle. Chris Hansen was closely and pretty unashamedly associated with a doxer, copyright abuser, and all-around unpleasant guy by the name of Anonymous Gene.
There's been this account going around for the past few months in the anti-Onision community called Anonymous Gene. Chris Hansen directly works with this account, and this account has done some pretty disturbing things that I wanted to bring to light, and hopefully I can get a response from Chris regarding this account and whether he endorses this, and whether he will continue to work with this account in the future. This account has directly spread the doxes of Onision's family members, including his father, mother, sisters, and more, all in these images or in the Google Docs folders. There's been a lot of that going on. He's done this in the past, and he kept on doing it until he kept on getting suspended, so that's pretty disturbing. He has a Google Doc here that teaches people how to abuse the copyright system to take down Onision's channel, committing perjury to take down Onision's channel.
Initially, Gene was simply going after Onision and his family until John's criticism of Hansen unfortunately landed him in his radar, and soon enough, Gene began a harassment campaign against him. Hansen was very much aware of Gene's behaviour, yet he turned a blind eye, more focused on the ends of exposing the YouTube psychopath from Washington State to have any hang-ups about the memes. Not only had Gene constantly harassed John's family, John's friends, their family, and anyone critical of Hansen, but Gene had gone out of his way to dox him.
I was doxed by Anonymous Gene. Up to this point, my name had been completely private, but I knew that at some point it would all come out, because all of our tax information in Australia is public. I expected it, and I owned it. To be honest, it didn't bother me too much. Sure, I was annoyed. I wanted to keep it all private, but I guess that's just not possible on the internet. But then something happened that just shook me. Badly. He started to involve my family and my young sister. It was around this time when my good friend Alistair was also subject to the doxing and harassment of Gene. But unfortunately for him, Gene was able to find a lot more on him than he did on me.
Not only this, but using personal information, Gene created fake articles and messaged old classmates of John, trying to out him as a paedophile.
Gene started to levy some pretty serious claims against me, saying that I was on a pedophile watch list in Queensland. I've never been to Queensland, and I'm certainly not on any list. But what I didn't expect is for Gene to start posting my location, my school, and trying to get in contact with former students from my year. This guy went deep into my past to try and find anything he could about me, but he couldn't seem to find anything negative, so he started to make things up. That I was a creep, a pedophile supporter, and various other things.
Despite Hansen's close involvement with Anonymous Gene, there's no proof as to whether or not Hansen had any say in this. But if he had absolutely anything to do with it, this greatly recontextualizes Hansen's reputation as a legitimate predator hunter. Apart from that one guy who killed himself, Hansen did do some legitimate good, putting predators behind bars, but if all along he was willing to frame people, I'm not sure how I feel about that. If he's fine with having false allegations chucked at his detractors, or at least having someone else to do it for him, then who's to say he hasn't done it before? Now, as much as I would love to go greater in depth in the lore of both Chris Hansen and Onision, I'd also not really want to edit a 6-hour video. And besides, there are people who've gone in much better than I could ever. Once again, I point you to John Swan series, which I've linked in the description. Doing so would also not leave me with nearly enough time to go over our next situation. EDP, real name Brian, or Dione apparently, was a once beloved creator and living meme. I believe the appeal was that he's overweight, said rude things, and was stupid. The EDP case is one of the most famous internet paedophile cases, in my opinion. I mean, I've personally had people I know in real life make jokes about it, but as with a lot of popular things on the internet, there's a massive amount of missing context and just straight misinformation. For example, a lot of people seem to forget that a year prior, EDP had actually been called out for talking to underage girls by a very energetic man named Cold Raven.
The past couple of days, EDP, Eat That 5445, has been going through a huge ton of accusations, pedophilia from a group chat. He made a video about last week addressing it. He now made a live stream today addressing the shit. And there's some bullshit that happens in between what was given and the evidence that contradict one another. And, then it kind of blatantly shows the motherfucking truth after the contradictions.
Cold Raven had made multiple videos calling EDP out for what seemed to him like blatant contradictions.
So now you have him contradicting himself. He went from, I love her, I would suck the fucking milk out them titties, to, I never seen a picture of her. Oh, cause you're lying.
For some reason, however, the majority of the YouTube audience seemingly took the side of Brian, an opinion all too scarce today. Despite Cold Raven seemingly being the vocal minority, his story was soon picked up by commentary news channels such as Tipster and Drama Alert. Although I'm sure that association didn't necessarily help in some people's eyes.
Oh, he sent me a screenshot, it's gonna be on Drama Alert, baby. You're finally gonna get exposed for the piece of shit you are, and I said it, and I'll say it again, man. I've been saying it for the past 2 to 3 months. You got away with it the first time. I won't let you get away with it again. And old Papa Raven didn't let you get away with it again. Everybody turned a blind eye, and that was it. But I kept digging and digging and digging. And everybody was putting on the earmuffs, and I kept digging and digging and digging, and everybody had their mouth shut, and I just kept on digging. People turned their heads, people stopped caring, but I did not stop digging, and I got your ass on blast.
But people would certainly start to warm up to Cold Raven's narrative, so much so that in 2021, a sting operation was launched on EDP by the Predator Poachers. But hang on a second, wait. Who are the Predator Poachers? The Predator Poachers YouTube channel featured 2 men, the most important and notorious being Alex Rosen, or as you probably know him, Chet Goldstein. Alex is a strange bloke and definitely not equipped to be predator poaching. While the EDP case was the poachers' big break, for better or for worse, the predator poachers had been around for a while beforehand. Immediately, the Chet Goldstein persona, containing what I believe is the Hebrew word for Hanukkah in the profile picture, and a YouTube description saying oeveh, less of a dog whistle and more just like blatant anti-Semitism. Not to mention, he really likes the N-word.
Dude, you can't say nigger on the live stream. It's bad. Dude, the niggers are gonna get offended and report us.
Oh, and he's homophobic as well.
He only sucks at night. Queer. He doesn't look like kind of Dracula.
Oh, and that's also ignoring his other strange jokes.
I have a 3-year-old in my basement that's like lacking vitamin D. I provide her with plenty of D, just not the vitamin part.
Oh no, that's not good either.
Oh, really?
Not if it's a child.
Well, I was tired of being a virgin, so what the yeah.
I thought that one was proper funny, didn't he? Oh, also they're definitely guilty of entrapment, which is baiting someone to commit a crime, which means it's not going to be admissible in court, any of this evidence. Good job, Alex. About 4 months prior to the EDP case, an article by the Omaha World Herald was written discussing a recent operation by the Predator Poachers that had pretty heavily interfered with an ongoing police investigation against the same guy. This is bad enough on its own, but what makes it much worse is that they promised the guy that if he was honest with them, he won't go to jail, deciding that a much more fitting punishment was to force the man to wear an embarrassing t-shirt, saying that if he didn't wear it, they'd contact the police. Throughout this entire ordeal, the Predator Poachers decided not to call the police, despite the Predator's landlord and even his own mother suggesting they should. So because of them, at this point, this Predator knew someone, maybe not the police, but someone was onto him, which definitely prompted them to delete any evidence the police might have been able to use to prosecute him. And this isn't even close to the early time they've just let a paedophile off, assumingly believing that a stern talking to is enough to deter these nonces, like this one who they had proof was trying to meet with a 13-year-old boy.
It's just like, if we were police, what would we do? But it's nothing, it's not a big deal. Dude, go to work, bro. We don't even know where you work. You're good. Just get out of here. There's your second chance.
Oh, how about that one time, instead of calling the police, he decided to challenge the Predator to a boxing match. But how on earth does he catch these Predators without, like, any children as proof? How are the Predators going to know it's a child they're talking to? Well, for one, Alex apparently uses a picture of his knob he took in high school.
It's in a folder, and I took that in high school, and and that's the one that's in the Predators. It's called Emergency Pick.
Which is, you know, distribution of CP, which is both foul and very much illegal. Along with all that, Alex proudly used real-life children as decoys. Thankfully, clothed, to my knowledge.
Alright, just want to thank the decoys in this video. Thank you from Florida and from Tennessee for being the main girl and boy decoys that we use. Without y'all, this channel wouldn't be a thing. So what I did was I gave you $20 over PayPal and got you a $25 PlayStation gift card. Yeah, but I really appreciate y'all, man. This channel wouldn't grow so fast or be where it's at without y'all, and you really do help us catch these sickos. You know, we couldn't do it if we didn't have like a plethora of pictures of y'all, so I really appreciate y'all putting yourselves out there for like the creepiest people on earth. I really appreciate y'all, and every other decoy that we use, but y'all aren't getting paid. Y'all been in what, like 1 or 2 videos, doesn't count.
This is more than bad enough on its own. He's using real children's pictures to bait these pedophiles, but what makes it infinitely worse is that one of these minors was unfortunately resulted as a direct result.
Go for it. So where everything happened outside, the predator, I was talking to him for like half 10 minutes or 20 minutes to convince him to come inside the house. He was touching me, kissing me, in my hand, holding my hand to the front door. He came inside the house, and we started talking the whole conversation. I could leave, but I wanted to come.
Well, there's no way I can prove this testimony is real and not just made up to make the predator seem worse, which is disgusting on a whole nother level. This testimony is at the end of a 15-minute video, the majority of which is an interrogation that leads to Alex letting the predator go at the end. What makes this worse is he couldn't even tell his friends to go and shut up while this kid was detailing how he was abused, basically. As you could tell by it being mostly unintelligible. This also means that he was putting children in direct danger for content. And even if the testimony is fake, here's a video of one of Alex's decoys talking to a predator, buying time before a member of his team confronts him.
No way. Yeah. This whole time? Well, I'm gonna go get something from the restroom, and I'll be right back.
Sunday fun day going on here? Not a whole lot. What brings you here?
Nothing much.
You go ahead and sit right here.
So, to sum up, these people are clearly wildly incompetent of poaching predators and potentially guilty of at least 5 different crimes. So back to EDP. The scheme began when Alex, claiming to be a 13-year-old girl, using the pictures of one of these underage decoys, naturally began to strike up conversation with Brian. These messages are vile enough on their own, removed from the context that he's messaging who he thinks is a 13-year-old, so I won't show you all of them, but there are certainly a couple of highlights. So what are you doing?
Just laying in bed relaxing.
Oh nice, Sam.
Lol, image.
Aw, so adorable.
Kinda wish you were here to give me a kiss. I'm having ghetto tacos. Lol.
That's cool, what are you doing?
Just got done beating my shit, lumfow. Just watching YouTube now.
Oh, like jacking up?
Lumfow. Yup.
Oh, okay. Never heard of that before.
Lol, I feel you.
Wanna talk on the phone? Like, tonight?
Sure, or we can just video chat. Good, because I'm gonna kiss and lick you from head to toe.
You like feet?
Yes, I sure do.
What's your best part?
You mean my favorite part to kiss and lick?
On the foot.
I love kiss and lick the top of the foot.
Like the toes?
Yes, I love the toes, actually. If I'm being completely honest, I can't wait to take your shirt off so I can lick and suck on your boobs.
Aw, hashtag me too.
You're just so damn cute.
That's all you.
Oh, stop. You're gonna make me blush.
Too bad. What are you gonna do about it?
One of two. You're such a sassy little shit. I love it, lol. Come to your house, climb through your window, and kiss your cute ass passionately. That's the only solution, 2 out of 2, I can think of.
Do you wanna call tonight?
Yo.
Yo.
What's up? What you doing?
Nothing much, lo. Just watching Netflix.
Dropped a mean ass shit. Okay, that should be good for you.
Well, that's enough of that. Unfortunately, none of this would actually hold up in court, something the predator poachers either didn't know or didn't care when they set up a meeting place with EDP.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Okay. No fist bump?
I don't fist bump people like you, man, to be honest.
So,
as I'm sure you'll remember if you were there for it, this video's insane. Right off the bat, EDP just fully admits to messaging the girl, no hesitation.
We have you talking to Sophie, correct? Yes or no?
Right.
Okay. Sophie is how old? Before, and again, I have it right here. I know the answer, but I just need you to tell me the answer. How old is she?
13.
13, okay. And before we get into the messages, there was content involved, yes or no?
Right.
And you
correct.
Okay, all right. So this is you texting all this, correct? This is your Instagram, yes or no?
Right.
Okay, all right. So again, what made you start this conversation with this said 13-year-old? You said what you doing right here, correct? Yes or no?
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, she messaged me, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, a person feels lonely and stuff, and they want the interaction.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what had happened.
You can sort of tell Alex isn't really sure what to do at this point. Brian being so nonchalant has clearly caught him off guard, but not to worry, EDP bros, because he comes out with the best defense ever.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home.
Of course, Alex goes in for an epic iron that he definitely wasn't preparing in the mirror beforehand.
You should title a video, instead of, your video, Almost Through Hands with a 13-year-old, you should title your video, Almost 13-year-old. I think that'll get a lot of hits, EDP.
I think so.
Yeah, so...
Near the end of the video, it clearly begins to dawn on EDP what is happening.
But you said you want to throw her in a dungeon. You said you want to climb through her window. You said you want to punish her. You sent graphic photos. You asked for graphic photos, and here you are walking to the apartment.
What's stopping me from pressing the green button right now? What's stopping me?
But if you notice, at the end of that clip, Alex was threatening to call the police, and while that's better than not calling the police whatsoever, the fact that they didn't do so in the first place is bad enough. The fact that they waited until the end of the confrontation to get the police is just really fucking stupid and very incompetent, especially since, presumably after he realised they couldn't do anything to him, EDP just walked away.
And you have the audacity to say, please don't do this. Are you serious? We should be asking you, please don't do this to minors.
To clarify, neither party is in the right. This is one of those all too common internet situations where there isn't actually a good guy, but two people who vehemently dislike each other pretending to be better than the other. Regardless, EDP was thankfully disgraced, but Alex and the Predator Poachers, well, following the EDP debacle, the Predator Poachers were heralded as heroes and began to revel in their newfound fame and popularity. However, being the incompetent group they are, they clearly weren't prepared for this, and this is more than evident in the interview conducted by, Chris Hansen.
Good evening and welcome to Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. I'm Chris Hansen, and tonight we are going to take a look at the strange, disturbing, bizarre case of Bryant Moreland, EDP 445.
In this interview, Alex notably talks about the amount of arrests as a result of the Predator Poachers, or should I say lack thereof.
How many of the 300 or so people exposed in your investigations have actually been prosecuted, and how many have been convicted?
There's been a few that have been sentenced already, and there's a lot of pending right now. For example, in Maryland, I got to go to court in October, but a lot have been arrested and a lot are awaiting trial. So a lot are in the process right now. And I know in Ohio, I don't have a number, but PP Ohio has quite a few convicted. I don't know the numbers for the other groups, but I know that it's over 10 that are either going to be convicted or sentenced or awaiting trial and all of that. And I know there's countless arrests that are like, just in the jail.
So 10 convictions, you think, out of 300 or so actual predators exposed.
He also doesn't really understand what entrapment is, I think.
And what protocols, Alex, do you have in place to make sure that this is done fairly with integrity and you don't have an entrapment situation? Obviously, you can't have entrapment as a legal
of course,
defense here because you're not law enforcement. We all know that.
Right.
But in terms of fairness and the ability for law enforcement to prosecute, what protocols do you have in place for that?
So we always make sure to state our age quickly, as in the first or second message, or have it in the profile. Like, for example, with EDP on Instagram, in the profile, on Instagram, it's not an age-restricted app, so we can put that we're 13 in the profile. So we always have the age showing in their face as quick as possible. And if it's something like Grindr, we make sure to hide the age, so they can't say, I messaged a 23-year-old, I messaged this. They don't know who they're messaging. All it looks like is they're messaging an underage kid. And within, like I said, the first or second message, we always state the age. So we give them that fork in the road before they can even eat. You know what I mean?
And what's the threshold for setting up a meeting?
The threshold for setting up a meeting is they have to want to do something in person first. So if they say, I want to meet you here and do this, well, that's easy. And then we just give them the spot. So, or if they say like, hey, I want to hug and kiss you and do this. Well, obviously you can't hug and kiss over the phone. So we're like, when do you want to do that? And then they say when. And then from there we can say, I live in these apartments. So we always make sure they say it first. Like if somebody's a predator, you don't have to make them into a predator. That's what we always say. If somebody's a predator, they will be a predator. So we don't really have to do too much to make them a predator. So
following this expose and all the buzz surrounding it, not only was EDP banned, likely due to YouTube's crackdown on pedophiles, take Linemaker for example, but Alex's channels were banned as well, reportedly due to bullying and harassment policies. I initially assumed the predator poachers had kind of just fallen off the face of the earth with no YouTube channel and a barren website. If they were still around, I hadn't heard about them, except no. The predator poachers are still making content for Rumble of all platforms, and Alex has not just been exposing predators, but epically owning the woke mob as well, by simply just being a very unpleasant person to be around.
I feel extremely unsafe in this area. The fact that none of y'all are wearing a mask over y'all's nose and mouth, kinda...
EDP, however, is still incredibly vocal, not moving to Rumble, but recently TikTok before his eventual ban. It's kinda crazy how the predator poachers ended up worse off than the guy wanting to meet up with the 13-year-old, but I mean, looking at some of the stuff Alex has done, I can't really say I'm surprised. Of course, Chris Hansen continues to be involved. Perhaps see a predator face justice, but more than likely to prolong his fanning relevancy. Okay, so in conclusion, Chris Hansen really needs to stop getting involved in internet drama, but in all seriousness, as I mentioned earlier, nobody's the good guy here. There is not someone in the right in either of these situations. You're either a massive paedophile, a massive incompetent bigot, or a massive incompetent grifter. And two wrongs don't make a right. As of recording this, I'm like frustratingly close to being monetized, so please just do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, shameless plug I know. Also, proper funny Twitter, make banging tweets, have a check at that, yeah? Nothing else. I'm planning to make some banging videos this year, hahayeah 2023, so yeah, stick around, and with that being said, I'll see you next time.